Caleb. Normally, when I hear the name Caleb, I think of a white boy, maybe from some suburb like Naperville, but today I'll be talking about something completely detached from the white picket fences of the modern nuclear family. This is a story about experimentation, mental decline, and governmental corruption. This is the story of Caleb. Caleb is a character from the popular game Love in Deep Space, an ultimate game created in China. Currently, there are 5 love interests, with Caleb being the newest addition to the roster, and him being based off of the popular Big Brother and yandere tropes. Every love interest is somehow linked to the MC, or you, by fate, but we'll only be talking about Caleb for this video. I would like to add a small disclaimer that my analysis only goes up to what we knew as of March 29th, 2025, as I ended up losing a lot of interest in the game after due to a Batman hyperfixation. Tim Drake's the best Robin, by the way. Caleb is introduced to you as your childhood friend, although some translations have him as your adoptive brother. I will be going with a mix of the two ideas, more akin to the author's original intent, as a Big Brother romance is a popular trope in East Asian Ultimate games. It is heavily implied that you and Caleb were both test experiments, with you being the perfect outcome before the experiment was shut down, and Grandma, a former researcher who experimented on the two of you, adopts you and raises you until adulthood. Caleb is often documented as protective of you, even if it means locking you away in the attic to get you away from childhood bullies. Once he graduates from high school, he joins the DAA as a fighter pilot, but has difficulty passing due to his mental health scores. He eventually becomes a pilot, his lifelong dream accomplished, and you graduate and become a hunter, someone who fights monsters created from metaflux anomalies. One day, when having a rare dinner all together at Grandma's house, your watch senses some metaflux anomalies, and so you go out to investigate, much to Caleb's dismay. When it turns out to be not much of anything, you go back to dinner and run into Caleb, who walks you back to the house, entering first. Moments before you enter behind him, though, the house explodes with Caleb and Grandma inside. Both are presumed dead. Roughly a year later, you've thrown yourself into your work and go on an undercover mission to check out all possible aether cores, much like the one in your heart that made you the perfect experiment, and retrieve them before the far space fleet can. That is a mouthful, Jesus. Skyhaven, the city you're going to, is completely under the rule of the far space fleet, although the main portion of the fleet actually spends most of its time in far out deep space for months to years on end. I need to stop stuttering. On your first day infiltrating the fleet, you're found out because, of course, you're terrible at your job. Not actually. The newest colonel was coming back that day, and lo and behold, guess who it is? It's Caleb, though not a Caleb you recognize. He's a cold and stern man, nothing like this smiling golden retriever of a boy you knew before his death. However, he notices you right away, having you taken in for questioning, and later staying at his house as a form of house arrest. He explains that it's to keep you safe, and even when you protest that he's scaring you, he just digs in further, promising to lock you up forever if it means keeping you safe from yourself and the outside world. God, I cannot read today. This is going to be something happening a lot, I fear. Now, that's a lot to unpack, but this is all from your, MC's, perspective. When you only see this, you see a person you knew inside and out, from his favorite candy to his favorite laundry detergent. Someone who you knew died, after all, you held a funeral for him. And yet he's right in front of you, at least physically he is. He acts differently, scary, cold, dangerous. This is not Caleb, this is the Colonel. And that's what MC sees, that's what you see. But when you peel back the layers and look into him, it's different. Caleb is the person he is to you, but the Colonel is him too. The Colonel is who he's been to everyone else his entire life. He doesn't have the ability to mask it anymore. Years of suffering from PTSD and other related disorders such as dissociative amnesia and chaotic dreams, most likely a bad translation of nightmare disorder, have worn him down. A year of painful body and mind modifications has hurt him beyond imagination, and a web of political corruption and lies has ensnared him so tightly that he may never be able to fully escape. During the experiments, MC was experimented on heavily. The main tests regarded killing this small girl, not even 3 years of age, over 750 times, and timing her revivals. Caleb was also put through horrendous testing, and it is implied that he either knew of or had seen a test on MC. These tests were performed by a variety of researchers, but the most prominent one we know of is Grandma, who performed many tests on MC, albeit against her own moral beliefs. Every time MC was killed, her memory was erased, causing Caleb to have to introduce himself over and over and over again to maybe the only person who understood his pain, even at the young age of 5 or 6. By that age, he had learned to see himself as someone who could only destroy small objects, something instilled in him by the test he was forced to undergo. But when he met MC, he decided he was going to try and protect this fragile girl instead. Imagine seeing yourself as a 5-year-old being of pure destruction, trying so hard to protect this fragile little human 2 years your junior, but failing over and over and over again. 750 plus instances of failing to protect her. After the experiments were shut down, Grandma took in the 2 children. While MC had no memory of her time as a test subject due to her memory loss, Caleb was fully aware of the horrors that the 2 of them had undergone at the hands of Grandma and the other researchers. He probably was unable to trust Grandma to protect MC and him due to the past trauma she had inflicted on the 2. Due to MC's memory loss, Caleb never told MC what they underwent in order to protect her. This meant that a 6-year-old child was shouldering the traumas of 2 people while living under the same roof as their abuser turned so-called protector. Caleb put on a mask of trusting Grandma around MC, who wouldn't understand why Caleb didn't trust her, but it is shown through his actions that despite maybe learning to see her as a genuine family member, he never fully trusted her and would always put a wall between the 2. This childhood caused Caleb to form an anxious attachment style caused by inconsistent caregiving, emotional unavailability, and/or traumatic events. Anxious attachment styles lead to a deep-seated fear of abandonment and an intense need for closeness and reassurance in relationships. It is characterized by intense fear of abandonment, persistent worry that their partner will leave them, a need for reassurance, which is constantly seeking validation and assurance of their partner's love and commitment, clinginess, engaging in behaviors to keep their partner close, such as an excessive texting or calling, hypersensitivity, relationship dynamics, overly attuned to changes in their partner's mood or behavior, difficulty trusting, struggling to trust that their partner truly cares for them, emotional volatility, experiencing intense emotions and mood swings related to their relationship status. Unfortunately, the website that I used to find that data was more focused, or the study that I used, was more focused on the attachment style and its experiences based, oh god, I cannot talk off script apparently. Unfortunately, the study that I found for this was studying the effect of anxious attachment style on relationships. However, these things do cross over into other types of relationships that are more than just romantic. There we go. Anyways, back on script. We're getting better. He would make sure that MC would run to him when she was in trouble instead of Grandma, both as means of protecting her himself, and fulfilling his self-assigned role as her protector, but also to protect her from the woman who had hurt her so badly in the past. His self-assigned role of a protector for a fragile MC, mixed with not trusting Grandma to protect instead of hurt, caused his mental role of protector to grow from simply proving himself to be able to protect something fragile to a protector from real-world threats. These threats only grew as MC grew, where she developed a large lack of self-preservation due to the fact that Caleb would always be there to get her out of a sticky situation. This took a pretty big toll on Caleb, seeing the woman he spent so long keeping safe going out of her way to fight bullies or get in dangerous situations, albeit on accident. This caused Caleb to start locking MC away without her knowing, and when it worked, he realized that the only way he would be able to keep her safe was by keeping her locked up, although she would be furious if she found out. Therefore, it would have to remain a secret. Let me scroll down if my computer will let me. When Caleb and MC were in high school, they were both pretty protective of each other. While I can't fully find a reason for MC becoming protective of Caleb, that's maybe just jealousy of Caleb possibly leaving her when he grows up, which is common in close siblings, friends, and sometimes lovers, it is clear that both of them are practically inseparable. They actually promise to never date anybody. They go to different schools where both are popular, and whenever one gets too popular for their liking, they would ask the other to pretend to be their significant other, which continues after Caleb graduates and goes to the flight academy. After Caleb graduates, MC decides she wants to become a hunter. Caleb is adamantly against it and tries at first to dissuade her, and then finds faults in her ability to protect herself. Obviously, he does this because once again MC is going against everything he's worked so hard for and is throwing herself into the direct line of fire, albeit for the good of others. It also doesn't help that now he has to live in the flight academy in Skyhaven, a day-long trip away from Lincoln where MC is. Oof, I scrolled down too far. Anyways, eventually Caleb has to accept the fact that MC doesn't need his physical protection anymore, and on one rainy night in the attic, he promises to her sleeping form that he would never lock her up again against her will. This doesn't mean that he won't lock her up, it's only that he won't if she doesn't want to, and that he'll let her go when she asks. He still has a strong desire to protect her, though, and sublimates those feelings into cooking and cleaning for her when he's home. He sets boundaries for himself, and their somewhat toxic relationship starts healing. Rifts that were opened in their fights from when MC first started hunter training start to heal. However, Caleb is not. At school, he fails a routine mental health class, something deemed a blowover by the rest of the academy for the relative ease at which cadets pass. In this class, when asked about his concern about a flight, his only answer is how long it would take for him to get home, not his safety or other more pressing concerns. When a classmate asks him if he was crazy, he simply responds with laughter and, "I don't know, maybe I lost my marbles long ago." Caleb is referred to a psychologist who diagnoses him with dissociative amnesia and chaotic dreams. Dissociative amnesia is caused by past or recent trauma, abuse, accidents, or extreme stress, such as war or natural disaster, either witnessed or experienced, can cause dissociative amnesia. That was a bad writing on my part. Symptoms include not normal forgetting, which ranges from forgetting personal information like your name and address to specific traumatic events to the events of one's own life. Generalized dissociative amnesia can even cause someone to forget their entire life. Most cases of dissociative amnesia are temporary, but memory gaps can last from a few minutes to a lifetime. The DSM-5 Diagnostic Statistical Manual version 5, the Holy Grail of Psychology page, lists symptoms as an inability to remember important autobiographical information that one would normally remember, a sense of detachment from self, including identity and emotions. Forgetting causes distress in daily life, including at work, school, or with friends and family, and the disturbance is not due to substance abuse, a different mental health disorder, or another medical condition such as a seizure of brain injury. Long-term can lead to long-term memory loss, as well as mood disorders such as depression or anxiety. In some severe cases, suicidal ideations can occur. God, I hate reading from the DSM-5. It's so... it's a lot. Chaotic dreams is another diagnosis of his, but there's nothing in the DSM-5 about chaotic dreams, so instead I will be referring to something almost exactly like it's described in Love in Deep Space, LADS, called nightmare disorder. Personally, I think the localization team just messed up a bit in translations. However, nightmare disorder is related to dissociative mental states such as dissociative amnesia. Dissociative states usually emerge as a disconnection and switch between different mental states due to disconnection between memories related to traumatic or stressful experiences that disturb conscious awareness and experience of the self. It can also be related to DID, otherwise known as dissociative identity disorder, formerly known as multiple personality disorder. DSM-5 criteria for nightmare disorder includes 1. Repeated occurrences of extended, extremely dysphoric, and well-remembered dreams. 2. On awakening from the dysphoric dreams, the individual rapidly becomes oriented and alert. 3. The sleep disturbance causes clinically significant distress or impairment in social, occupational, or other areas of functioning. 4. The nightmare symptoms are not attributable to the psychological effects of a substance. And 5. Coexisting medical and mental disorders do not adequately explain the predominant complaint of dysphoric dreams. The DSM-5 does not specify a frequency of nightmares related for diagnosis, though a generally accepted threshold is a minimum of 1 nightmare episode per month. The diagnosis is characterized by dysphoric, reoccurring, well-remembered dreams, which result in awakening and are associated with daytime impairment and is frequently associated with comorbid sleep, insomnia, PTSD, depression, and/or anxiety. That was a lot. Due to his failure to pass his mental health class, Caleb is held back a year, despite having the best grades in the school otherwise. Eventually, Caleb is allowed to take a graduation final, but unfortunately, during said final, a flight into deep space, something goes wrong. Caleb's plane malfunctions and he ends up in uncharted deep space, a fatal accident, as even a day in uncharted deep space is a death sentence. At first, Caleb accepts his fate rather quickly, acting like he was just offered a smoothie instead of a death sentence. However, as he is waiting for death to claim him, he sees the necklace MC had given him, and realizes that he has to make it back or else MC would be sad. For the first time in a long time, Caleb has a reason to live. He makes it back, much to the surprise of his teachers and friends, and graduates as a valedictorian. When talking about the incident with a friend, he says that he was afraid of dying, but only instinctively. This whole incident turns MC from not only the person he needs to protect from someone he loves, but into his whole reason of living. He's afraid of dying, he said so himself, but now he actually has a reason to live. This turns this strong need to protect MC into an obsession with her, an instinctual need to keep her alive and reliant on him. Oh my god, my phone needs to shut up. Stemming not only from his need to protect her, but also to protect himself. Caleb is realizing through this he goes too far, and this is when he starts drawing boundaries, much like his promise to never lock MC up against her will again, and start sublimating. However, progress is not a straight line. Caleb strongly expresses his feelings towards MC about his fear of her getting hurt, and the need is more visible when she gets hurt. He will lecture her and clearly get upset when she gets hurt, especially when she hides her injuries from him. One day, MC and Caleb are both home with Grandma Jo amidst mystery explosions and High Wanderer, which are monsters that appear during metaflux anomalies appearances. MC is now a fully graduated hunter, and Caleb is a pilot in the DAA. When MC goes out to check a metaflux fluctuation, and Caleb joins her against her will, Caleb does leave her alone when she tells him to, but he meets back up with her after she gets scratched by a cat and lectures her for getting hurt. He is clearly upset that 1. She got hurt, 2. She hid her injury from him, and 3. She didn't think he was able to accompany him to check out the metaflux fluctuation. When they get back to Grandma Jo's house, and Caleb goes into the house first, the house explodes with Caleb and Grandma Jo inside. MC is safe. Originally, we presume that she's fine because she's outside, but later we find out that Caleb saved MC by using his evol to contain the blast radius. An evol is basically a power. Caleb's is gravity. Caleb had to choose between saving Grandma Jo, probably the only person he's ever possibly seen as family, and MC, the woman he loves, even platonically, as well as the only reason he's alive. The amount of stress and the amount of trauma that can be created from that is an obscene amount. So, sorry we're going off script again, because I forgot to put that in. After the explosion, Caleb and Grandma Jo are presumed dead. Funerals are held, and both of them are now legally dead. However, Caleb did not die in the explosion and was saved from the rubble by either Professor Lucius or someone who worked for him, or ever. His arm is completely destroyed when he's retrieved in a coma, and Professor Lucius, who I'll just call the Professor, creates a new bionic arm for him. During that time he is being brought back to health, Caleb undergoes multiple experiments and procedures, such as having a Turing chip implanted along with his arm, but the chip is unable to access the entire brain even when he's unconscious. The Professor is somewhat related to Ever, the big bad of the game, but we just don't know exactly how. We do know that the professor is looking for subjects that have or are compatible with aether cores, so given that Ever is interested in aether cores, the experiment that Caleb and MC underwent as kids, and Caleb being one of the professor's subjects, it's pretty reasonable to assume that Caleb has an aether core in his body like MC and Silas. My personal theory is that it's in his brain or connected to it somehow because of how the data from the Turing chip is seemingly being sucked into a black hole, which is related to gravity, which is Caleb's power. Caleb spends a long time, we don't know how long, in the hospital where his right arm was replaced. Originally, he still had feeling in his arm, but after tests and experiments, he lost all feeling in his right arm except for extreme pain. Caleb is subjected to modifications and experiments, most notably, except for the arm, being a chip called the Turing chip. A Turing chip rewrites or deletes memories that cause the user to feel extreme emotions, as well as boosting the user's physical performance. It also takes the user's deepest feelings or desires and amplifies them. The professor does all this to Caleb to turn him into a weapon forever. He also expresses interest in finding MC and subjecting her to the same modifications and experiments that Caleb has had. Caleb rejects the professor by saying MC is unawakened and he is a better subject as he's willing and awakened. Presumably he means that he has full control over his evol and his aether core if he actually has one. Caleb assumedly doesn't want to go through all this pain and literal torture, but 1, he has to stay alive for MC, and 2, he has to protect MC from going through the same pain as he is. Ergo, he has to keep MC away from the professor, and he has to be involved with the professor and his experiments. Caleb is willingly sacrificing himself to keep MC safe. This entire thing was not only extremely painful for Caleb, but also very mentally scarring, adding to the mental issues Caleb already had, probably making his dissociative amnesia and chaotic dreams worse, and adding on to his probable PTSD from the experiments and his near-death experience during his final. The trauma from the experience probably only made Caleb's possessiveness and obsession with MC worse, as she was probably the only thing he was/is hanging on to. It also erased a lot of the progress he had made mentally pre-explosion. With the mystery person and the professor's backing, Caleb enters the Farspace fleet. He later tells MC that he would have been abandoned if he didn't join the fleet. Whether the abandoner would have been the professor, or Ever, or even both, we don't know. But due to his anxious attachment style, Caleb is terrified of being abandoned. He clearly doesn't like the professor, but that doesn't mean that he would be fine with being abandoned. His subconscious needs to be accepted would still refuse to let him be abandoned by an abuser. He quickly becomes a colonel, and all of his subordinates are forced to undergo mandatory medical exams where presumably soldiers had Turing chips implanted, and maybe more regardless of their willingness. That's a sentence. Anyways. Other fleets see Caleb's fleet as a monster fleet and refer to Caleb as the monster colonel. Caleb is also seen to be controlled by a mystery man who is clearly a higher-up. This man can cause Caleb physical pain, which stems from his right arm and seems to be related to either an electricity evol or Caleb's mechanical arm without even being close to him. Caleb is also shown to be terrified of this man. Mystery Man wants to destroy the Turing chips, but it seems it's less out of moral obligation or because of the negative effects of the chips, but more because the chips are a product of a different faction and he has no control. Through this entire time, Caleb has no other reason to keep living other than MC. This causes his need to protect her to get even worse because of the pain he's experienced and how the professor wants to put her through the same pain, and causes his obsession with MC to get worse because MC was the only thing he was holding on to. He probably thought about dying multiple times, but he couldn't let himself die because of MC. Unconsciously, he probably harbors a bit of resentment towards MC because no matter how much pain he suffered, no matter how much of his body turned to metal, how much feeling he lost in his arm, how badly he wanted to die, he couldn't because of MC. Caleb is now willingly being turned into a weapon to protect MC. MC is Caleb's weakness. Caleb is coming back from a mission in the deep space tunnel while MC is infiltrating the Farspace fleet to investigate an explosion that is likely linked not only to an aether core but also the explosion that killed Grandma Jo and killed Caleb. Caleb immediately notices MC, because of course he does, and has her brought to an interrogation room. There, it is revealed that Caleb didn't die in the explosion, that MC needs to be careful because there's more than one pair of eyes watching them. Caleb takes her to his house and has MC named as his adjutant so that she can be safe while in Skyhaven, where the Farspace Fleet operates out of. He tells her not to get involved with the explosion investigation and that she should go back to Lincoln. Obviously, MC, being the stubborn idiot with no self-preservation that she is, refuses. MC investigates the explosion more, seemingly without Caleb's knowledge, and meets one of the victims with the help of Zane, another love interest, who is helping out at Skyhaven's hospital. With the help of the little girl, MC is able to find a missing victim, the brother of the little girl named Kevy, who possesses an aether core. MC works with Zane to get Kevy out of Skyhaven, which is currently on lockdown due to the explosion, and to Oxo Hospital to get treatment for his injuries. Naturally, Caleb finds out about this. He's a bit of a stalker. MC goes out without Caleb and ends up meeting Viper, who is somehow connected to Caleb. Viper gives MC a vague warning about Caleb, planting seeds of distrust and doubt in MC about him. MC is suddenly attacked by a Wanderer, the monsters that appear when there's a Metaflux anomaly, and right before she can fight it, Caleb shows up and defeats it for her. MC gets a small injury from the fight, and Caleb immediately lectures her for trying to fight a Wanderer. Caleb's persona that he's been putting on for MC starts to crack, but only slightly. MC tells Caleb about Viper, and Caleb tells MC to stay where she is as he chases after Viper. Here is where he shows very stereotypical yandere actions, not only threatening Viper to stay away from MC, but also injuring Viper's hand, simply because he touched MC with her hand. This is also very much an indicator of his obsession and possessiveness of MC. MC and Caleb get back to Caleb's house, and MC asks if she can leave the house the next night for personal reasons, which Caleb denies. MC plans to sneak out of the house to get Kevy and get him to Zane, but Caleb seemingly catches on to these plans. The next morning, MC wakes up sick due to the rain the night before, and Caleb takes care of her. When she brings up leaving that night again, he adamantly denies it, and more cracks start to show. MC is now doubting Caleb more and more due to the words Viper told her, and she decides to sneak out. Before she goes to bed for the night, Caleb makes her take meds for her cold, probably something similar to NyQuil, and she ends up falling asleep and not being able to rescue Kevy. The next morning, MC wakes up and is horrified to find out that not only was Kevy taken by the Farspace Fleet, but also that his sister, who was still in the hospital, died. MC goes to the girl's funeral and meets Kevy, who now seems almost robotic and devoid of emotion. Caleb informs MC that he's been adopted by the professor and will be well cared for. MC knows something is off with Kevy and decides to find Kevy on her own and talk to him one-on-one. She eventually gets face-to-face with Kevy at the professor's house and ends up accidentally making Kevy so emotional with reminders of his sister and parents, all now dead, causing a Turing chip that's been implanted in Kevy to rewrite Kevy's memories in front of MC. As MC is reeling from the shock, she hears Caleb talking to the professor, and her trust in Caleb is broken. That night, MC decides to track Caleb and follow him to wherever he goes at night during the fleet's mandatory lockdown. She is led to a desolate area where human experiments are being turned into wanderers/monsters. In order to hide from guards, she comes into contact with a young woman or girl who is far into the transition process from human to wanderer. The woman acts normal and sympathetic with MC until suddenly she comments on how good MC smells, and eventually MC is being attacked by a horde of these experiments all trying to eat her. This smell is presumably MC's aether core/resonance powers. MC is saved by Caleb, who takes MC back to his home forcefully and locks her up. The persona/mask that he's been wearing is gone by now, and he fully shows his want to lock her up forever to keep her away from the rest of the world. When MC says he can't do that because of her friends and her job as a hunter, he simply suggests faking her death and holding a funeral. Red flag, by the way. If somebody ever says that to you, run. MC pushes Caleb away, saying she doesn't need his protection, and also communicates to Caleb that she is scared of him. Caleb clearly is hurt by this, hearing only, "I don't need you," and interpreting, "You're scaring me," as MC hating him. At this point, the Turing chip is at roughly 93% synchronicity, and despite him clearly being in a heightened emotional state, Nothing happens to his memories, but the chip is probably heightening his need to lock MC up and making the situation worse. Eventually, Caleb is able to keep MC locked up in his house against her will, completely going against his promise from before the explosion to never lock her up against her will, but at this point he's likely forgotten their promise due to his dissociative amnesia and his anxious attachment, specifically his fear of abandonment, is at an all-time high. He truly believes that if he lets MC go, she will abandon him. He doesn't even show emotion when MC throws a glass at him and it shatters, only asking if, in doing so, it helped her calm down at all. Caleb believes that the only way to protect MC at this point is to completely isolate her and keep her in the dark about everything, because he knows she won't sit back and wait for the danger to come to her. Instead, she will actively seek out the danger. Also, MC has been the only constant in Caleb's life, and in an already unstable political and emotional state, having that constant, her love, being shaken, is dangerous to him. When MC expresses her fear of Caleb and how she doesn't... Oh, I already said that. My bad. Caleb is dependent on MC, but also has an anxious attachment style and constantly needs reassurance and love from MC. Caleb also likely has trust issues and probably spends a lot of time somewhat confused about his surroundings or even self due to his dissociative amnesia, and his chaotic dreams make both sleeping and being awake difficult, making him have to take meds to get rest and suffer from sleep deprivation due to fitful sleep or even lack of sleep due to his dreams. Overall, Caleb cannot afford to have MC's love for him be in question, but now that it is, his entire world is falling apart. MC is pushing Caleb away, and Caleb can't afford that. The only way his suffering brain can come up with to keep MC by his side is to lock her up. MC says, "I've had enough of your protection," and Caleb is visibly hurt. He takes her words as a full rejection and maybe even her abandoning him. MC now sees Caleb and the Colonel as separate entities. She loves Caleb but hates the Colonel, thinking the Colonel killed her Caleb. Caleb always felt the need to lock MC up, but now, when he was young, he couldn't lock her up forever. The worst case scenario would be MC spending a cold night in the attic, but now Caleb has the power and the resources to actually keep MC locked up forever. The mix of power, new resources, and Caleb's mental state, along with MC being his only reason to live, means that he can not only lock MC away forever, but also feels as though he's in the right for it. The possibility that as time goes on, if he did lock her up forever, MC resenting Caleb more and more, and openly rejecting his protection more and more, would only lead to him thinking he was in the right more and more, as his anxious attachment would say that MC would abandon Caleb if he lets her go. Take a shot every time I say more and more, goddamn. Eventually, Caleb remembers the promise he made to MC and asks for just 3 more days to wrap up his business before he lets her go, but promises he will let MC go, and then he'll go on a mission, and MC will never see him again. Caleb thinks that this will make MC happy. On the night of the 3rd day, Caleb confronts MC and tries to make her eat with him because it'll be the last time they see each other. MC rightfully gets angry at him, saying that the Colonel even controls when I eat and sleep now. Caleb responds with, "You can be mad, but don't let it affect your health." He clearly still cares for her, despite thinking MC hates him. When MC refuses to go and asks for how he managed to turn into someone she barely even recognized, he reminisces on how he used to be able to tell exactly what she was thinking, then says, "What if I told you I was always like this? Your life has threats around every corner. The people who want to hurt you, they should all just disappear. You're only safe when you're by my side." MC pushes him away and tells him, "I don't need you," and Caleb responds, "What do you need? You can tell me." He's completely okay with changing his entire life and self if it means MC won't abandon him. He wants to protect her forever, and when MC tells him that he is important to her, he thinks she's just lying out of fear or for him to let her, or to get him to let her go. Eventually, Caleb does let go, but he obviously still cares about her. MC sees him off when he leaves for his mission, and he thinks that she would be happy that she won't ever have to see him again. On the plane back, MC finds a coupon for forgiveness from back when they were kids that Caleb slipped into her luggage or pocket, I'm not sure, and realizes that she can't just leave him behind forever and still cares about him. Okay, I know I stuttered a lot, and I know I promised a bit of a psychological evaluation, but this is really more of a lore dump with psychology mixed in, because I really just told you this man's story and some psychology got mixed in, but I swear he's got some interesting stuff to really dig into. All of this research was done through the DSM-5, not DSMP, and my AP Psychology class, so unfortunately I don't really have many sources because my teacher didn't really show the curriculum sources. I have my notes right here, but definitely feel free to either correct me or add on to my conclusions in the comments. I will also admit that most of this script was just a rewording of my original notes because, in my own words as I was writing this, I'm not quoting the DSM-5 at 3:31 a.m. If you want more of whatever this is, let me know and I might do more analysis on other characters from LADS or other game franchises. Thank you so much!